came across a list of questions on Godless Mom's blog that were asked by a theology student recently. When it comes to questions like these, you know they're my catnip. So let's see what they have to ask, and maybe you'll learn something about me. 1. What is your religious background? Did you grow up in a religious home? Growing up, my home really wasn't that religious. We never went to church or anything like that. Didn't really discuss religion at all. My parents understood the basic religious beliefs. I knew they went to church when they were younger, but both had drifted away from it before I was born. But religion wasn't really talked about at all, either for or against. Most of my religious background was based on what I was exposed to around me from culture and society at large. There were often religious programs on TV, cartoons depicting things like Noah and other stories, and hey, I was a kid. A cartoon was a cartoon, so I'm going to watch. And I had religious friends who told me they were based on real events. Why wouldn't I trust my friends who believe that? In grade school, we would start the day with the Lord's Prayer, and I would have teachers whose schedule would include biblical stories and Bible readings. I figured, since they were being taught in school, they must be a real thing. Teachers wouldn't lie to kids, right? I know, I was kind of naive. I remember back around grade 6 or 7, we had to change from the Lord's Prayer to a moment of silence, and we no longer had Bible verses read to us by the teacher. Anybody who knows the history of Ontario law could use that to date me. Ouch. Accurate, but still, ouch. 2. Was there a time when you were open to Christianity or another religion? Yes, when I was younger, since I grew up with religion around me, even if it wasn't in the home, I picked up the idea that it was correct, that there was a God and an afterlife. Then when I got older, I started, reasoning things out. I was up one night thinking about the Moses story, and started thinking how unlikely it was. That was my first real step towards disbelief. 3. Did you have an unfavorable experience with Christians or people of another religion that turned you off? No. I'm going to be one of the rare atheists who haven't personally had any really unfavorable experience with religious folks, beyond getting bothered by the good people at the Watchtower Society. I actually have had a lot of positive experience with religious followers. They can be good people, I just think their beliefs are wrong. That's not to say that there's no one out there who will use their religious beliefs to harm others. Just because it hasn't happened to me personally doesn't mean I don't think it happened ever. Many people have been harmed, both physically and emotionally, by religious believers acting on those beliefs. Laws keeping rights from certain members of society have been based on interpretation of religious dogma. The guy who is currently second in line for leader of America, when he was running a state, signed into law the ability to discriminate on religious grounds, and he wants educators to teach unscientific religious theories in science class. 4. Which religion do you take most offense to, and why? Anyone that says unbelievers like me have to abide by their rules, or that their believers should get special privileges based on said religion. And of course, those that make claims that they say people should accept without any rational evidence. So, yeah, most of them. If you want to believe, that's fine, up until the point those beliefs harm others or say that those that don't believe need to abide by your rules. 5. What is your primary objection to the Christian faith? The fantastic claims without any evidence behind it. Even if you leave out the obviously impossible stuff, the universe created in days, not over billions of years, worldwide flood ridden out by a single family with multiple types of every animal possible on a wooden boat, there is still no reason to believe it. The linchpin of the Christian faith is that a perfect person was killed for everyone's sins, whatever that means, and brought back to life. If we believe in him, we get eternal paradise, something that can't be proven until after we die. We have to take that claim on faith, with no evidence behind it other than, trust us, it says so in this book. Not having any proof, but expecting belief is, as I said previously, a primary issue I have with most religions. 6. Have you ever had a supernatural experience? Yes. Kind of. 1985. One day the cabinet doors of my house started moving on their own, opening and closing. I was convinced that the house was haunted. Turns out there were slightly open windows on opposite sides of the house, which created a vacuum effect when the wind blew. I was young and not that smart. I had convinced myself that what was a natural occurrence was a supernatural one. It was actually a useful incident for me because it made me realize that evidence was needed to substantiate claims, and that I shouldn't jump to conclusions, especially about the supernatural, if I didn't have all the evidence. 7. If there is no afterlife and we cease to exist after death, do you believe your life has purpose and meaning beyond survival of the human species? In what way? No. What I do will probably not have any meaning beyond the human race. My existence probably won't have much of a meaning after I shuffle off this mortal coil. I have no evidence of an afterlife, and as far as I can tell, there is no external purpose to life itself. And I think that's a good thing. I can give meaning to my life if I choose to, and I choose to give it meaning by being the best parent and husband possible. But it begs the question, why does life have to have a meaning that goes on beyond the survival of humanity? We're all going to be gone from this world someday. That's indisputable. But right now, in this tiny slice of time, in this minutely small part of the universe, we are here. Why shouldn't we give our lives meaning, even if it's a tiny slice on a galactic scale? 8. How would you describe your worldview? That reason and evidence is the best way to figure out what is true. I admit that I could be wrong about things, so I try to back up what I think about the world with evidence. Experts in general are more knowledgeable than me, so if they can prove their claims, I should listen to them, not because of who they are, but of what they can show. I think people should be treated the same regardless of things that don't affect others, like race, sex, orientation. In other words,
be excellent to each other.
9. Do you believe in right and wrong? What determines the ethics you live by? I personally determine what is right and wrong by harm. Do certain actions cause harm? Do they reduce harm? My ethics are a continuation of that. If an action causes harm and doesn't do any good, then, to me, it's unethical. If an action reduces harm or causes a good, then it is ethical. If an action causes harm but can also cause a greater good, then it may be acceptable. It depends if the ends really do justify the means. 10. Do you consider yourself a good person? Why or why not? I like to think I'm a good person. However, in general, almost everybody thinks they're good people, so asking that is usually a moot point. But specifically, I don't go to my way to harm anybody. If I get called out doing something that does harm another, I will attempt to correct my behavior and take responsibility for that. I like to think, in general, that's what makes me a good person. So there we go. Hopefully these are informative, and you learned a bit more about me.